first method we're going to look at for adding fractions is using a number line. If you are writing directly onto the foldable, in other words, you didn't print out the notes, open the foldable to the very back tab, using the number line tab, and you'll put steps 1 and 2 on the top flap of the tab and steps 3 and 4 on the bottom flap. Now, the first thing you have to do when you're adding fractions is you have to get a common denominator. And I know that there have been all sorts of strange misconceptions that have been brought up and just confusion around how in the world you get the lowest common denominator. And frankly, the easiest way I have found to explain it is to just ask you to do skip counting. So I'm going to take my two denominators. I have a 2 and a 3, and I'm just going to put them in a table, a 2 and a 3. And then I'm going to skip count. So I'm going to skip count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8. And then I'm going to skip count by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12. And the whole purpose of skip counting is to just find out what the smallest common denominator is. So in this case, we have a 6 in both parts of the table. So we can tell that 6 is my lowest common denominator. So once I have my lowest common denominator, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a number line. And my number line is just going to go from 0 to 1, but I'm going to use tabs of the common denominator. So each of my jumps is going to be 1/6. So to do that, let's get a prettier color. I'm going to go 0, 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, 6/6. I can even keep going. 7/6, 8/6. I'm just making the jumps on my number line go by 6. So now that I have the number line broken up by 6, I'm going to also label all of my equivalent fractions. So in the line right below my jumps, anyone that has an equivalent fraction, I'm going to label. So the first one would be 2/6. I know I can reduce that to 1/3. 3/6, I know I can reduce that to 1/2. 4/6 will reduce to 2/3. And 6/6 is just my 1. And then the numbers after it would be 1 and 1/6, 1, and I could put 2/6, but I already know that 2/6 is 1/3. So I've now written my equivalent fractions. So that was really steps 1 and steps 2. Now step 3 says I'm going to use my equivalent fractions to figure out how many spaces to move. So my first equivalent fraction is looking at this 1/2. So 1/2, if I look on my number line, 1/2 is the same as 3/6. So I know that I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 jumps. So I will move 3 jumps. Now I'm adding to that 2/3. So I'm going to look on my number line. And my equivalent fraction for 2/3 is 4/6. So I'm going to move another 4 jumps. So let's look at the number line and see what this really looks like. Let's get... Okay, so on my number line, it's 1/2 plus 2/3. So I figured out that 1/2 is 3 jumps. So 1, 2, 3 jumps. And then I'm going to add to that 2/3, which is 4 more jumps. 1, 2, 3, 4. And wherever I land, that's my answer. So the answer to 1/2 plus 2/3 is 7/6 or 1 1/6. And so I'll just write that as my answer. 7/6 or 1 1/6.